Welcome to This Week in Money, the source for market opinions. Here is Phil Mackesy.
Gerald Celente is publisher of the TrendsJournal, and he's founder-director of the TrendsResearchInstitute. You can find out more at TrendsResearch.com. Hey, Gerald, it's always good to hear from you.
Oh, thanks for having me on, Phil.
Wanted to wish you a happy belated Independence Day. You were in Kingston, New York. That is a place with a lot of revolutionary history. Tell us a little bit about your area and the part, Gerald, that it played in the War of Independence.
Well, actually, our offices are right off the most historic corner in the United States. It's the only place in the U.S. where in each corner there's a pre-Revolutionary War stone building. Of course, the British burnt them down in 1777, but most of them, the structures still existed, and they rebuilt them. And this was the first capital of New York State. And it was very instrumental in playing a very major part in the Revolutionary War. And my feeling is, and I just purchased, by the way, 3 of those 4 stone buildings within the last year. And I said to myself, if this is where the first American Revolution had its roots, why not start the second one? And for good reason. I mean, here we are. You're asking me about Independence Day? Independent from what? You're not independent from the government listening to you, watching every step you take, monitoring all your moves. You're not independent at all. This had nothing to do with Washington, who in his farewell address warned the American people not to become involved in foreign entanglements. It has nothing to do with the people who were the founding fathers, such as Madison and Jefferson and Franklin. In his own words, Madison warning us and Jefferson that the money changers were going to take over the country if we didn't stop them, and they would drive the people into poverty and use any means possible to rob us of our rights and rob us of our money. So, here we are in Independence Day, and I have to feel like the founding fathers would be turning in their graves.
Now, I was going to ask you what those early patriots coming back today, here in 2013 America, would make of the country that it's become. Have we really just replaced one kind of tyranny with another here?
Well, as I look at it, there hasn't been a revolution. When you look how closely tied the United States is with their mother England, and they're all doing the same dirty deals together, whether it's the Bank of England and the Federal Reserve, whether it's the war in Iraq with Blair and Bush, whether it's the U.S. and the U.K. with all of these spying activities on their so-called NATO allies. So I don't think a lot has changed. It's just a different king, but the nobility still rules.
Yeah,
and the nobility, the multinationals. This is Slavelandia. I mean, you look at the numbers that just came out with the job numbers. Oh, there are plenty of jobs, and oh boy, are they promoting it. Oh, this is wonderful. Oh, it's great news. Here's the fact, Phil. 3/5 of the jobs lost since the Great Recession began were middle-income paying jobs. 3/5 of those that have been created are low-income paying jobs. Am I making this up? Today, out of the 195,000 new private sector jobs alleged to have been created, 38% accounted for the category, I love it, leisure and hospitality. Isn't that a nice name?
Yeah.
Yeah, 52,000 new waitresses and bartenders, and 20,000 jobs almost in amusement, gambling, and recreation.
Yeah, it is. It is easy for us to look at these numbers and say, gee, this is good or gee, this is bad. But as you point out, we're not looking at the kind of jobs that are being created, and they're usually pretty crappy.
They are. Again, the numbers don't lie, but the people reporting them do. Ambulatory health care services, 13,600 jobs. Oh, and you know where they lost jobs? They lost jobs in manufacturing. Yeah, that's right. The jobs that paid money. And according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics news release, they point out that the number of involuntary part-time workers, those are people that are unable to find full-time jobs but want them, it increased by 322,000 in June to 8.2 million people. So these people are all added into this scam of what they call job creation.
Gerald, I don't understand some of the thinking that goes along here. See if you can understand what they're talking about here. A strong jobs report is bad for markets because that means the economy is recovering. A lousy jobs report is good for stocks because, hey, that means the Fed can continue to juice the markets.
Yeah, isn't that something?
Yeah.
Who would have ever believed this? This is an experiment that has never been tried before in the history of the world, part two. I mean, yeah. Oh, yeah, let's just keep printing a lot of cheap money, dumping it into the system. I got to know, we'll make up names like ongoing monetary transactions over there in Europe in the central bank, OMT. And then over here we have quantitative easing. And oh, yeah, that means buying up bonds, government bonds, and mortgage-backed securities to a tune of $85 billion a month. And you're getting away with this. You're rigging the bond markets, and they're rigging all the markets. Oh, remember, hey, Phil, for all those people that don't have attention deficit disorder, remember LIBOR?
Oh, yeah.
You remember that when they rigged the LIBOR rates, the interest rates, to the tune of, some $700 trillion? The whole game is rigged.
Gerald, talk to me about the second American Revolution. It is the Independence Day long weekend down in the States. We've just had a national holiday here in Canada, and it seems that the ideals that these guys fought and died for are farther and farther away than ever. Let's talk about a new beginning, what you call the second American Revolution. How do you see that happening, and what should we be looking for?
Well, the first things is to look at who are the people that are leading us? What makes these people so special? I mean, all they are politicians. It's show business for ugly people. And they're just putting on a show. And I think Frank Zappa called the politicians the entertainment division for the military-industrial complex. That's all it is. These are the same people you couldn't stand in high school and college that wanted to be class president and head of the student council. And they're telling us what to do. They're running and ruining our lives. So the first thing is to speak up, stand up, and have courage, and not to let these people rule your lives. Try to do everything you can to redirect it. Then number two, you begin in your community. You change your community. It begins at home, and that begins by changing yourself. Are you living to the highest ideals that you can live to? Because when you are, then you don't take BS from anybody else because you're not giving it, which is the golden rule, do unto others. And then on the very micro level, which goes to the macro level, is buy local, anything that you can. I don't eat corporate food. I don't go to corporate restaurants. I try to stay out of corporate stores. Of course, I have to buy products that aren't made in the USA or locally, but I try to minimize those. And the other thing, here we are in the summertime, grow your own and get healthy as you can. And then the other one, what I keep saying is, stay home, don't vote. By voting for the corrupt political parties, you're just encouraging them. If enough people stayed home and didn't vote, then they would call this whole thing a sham election.
Yeah.
So if people say, if you don't vote, then you get what you deserve. No, if you vote, you get what you deserve. You're getting a mafia member. In the United States, you have a choice of the mafias. You have the Republicans or the Democrats. So those are simple things to take. But, Phil, the revolution is going on worldwide. There's a revolution in Tunisia. As we speak, there's a revolution in Egypt. There's a revolution going on in Spain. The Portuguese government. Yeah, you remember those slimers that put all that austerity measures on their people? And they took the money from the people, robbed it from them, and gave it to the banks, and it was going to repair the economy. Now that government's ready to topple. There's revolutions over there. There's a revolution building up in Ireland. There's a revolution going on in Greece and Bahrain and Yemen and Syria and in Libya. There's revolutions in Mali and through countries throughout Africa. The revolutions have begun all around the world. Oh, I forgot Brazil and Turkey.
Oh, yeah.
Millions of people taking to the streets in protest. The governments are breaking down. The systems are failing. You know my expression. When people lose everything and have nothing else to lose, they lose it.
Yeah.
And they're losing it. And they're going to be losing it here in the good old USA and Canada and everywhere else. As the economies continue to unravel, I've called America a new name. Slavelandia. And when you look at these jobs that are being created, the slaves are working. And it's better than a plantation. You don't have to house them. You don't have to feed them. They just barely have enough money for housing and to make ends meet. So what I'm saying is the game is running out. We began this by talking about the Federal Reserve and the tapering of their quantitative easing and their stimulus. Mm-hmm. What's going to happen when interest rates go up? This was an interest rate recovery. The only reason there's been a housing rebound is because of the low interest rates. The only reason the stock market is gaining any momentum is because of all the money being dumped into the financial institutions to prop up the markets. When interest rates go up, the economies go down. And let's not forget, how are the governments going to pay off their debt with higher interest rates? So not only do the people get screwed, you get screwed twice because you're going to have to pay more for the government to service their debt and for you to service yours.
Gerald Celente from Trends Research Institute is our guest here on This Week in Money. You can catch him at TrendsResearch.com. And let's take a look at some headlines from Europe here. One of my favorites, Carney and Draghi declare monetary independence from rising U.S. rates. The Bank of England and the European Central Bank keeping their rates at rock bottom, 0.5%. And, of course, they're going to do that as long as they can get away with it.
Let's just take that first word, independence. Where is this guy Draghi from? Wasn't he the former vice chairman of the European division of the Goldman Sachs gang?
And Mr. Carney also worked for Goldman Sachs.
Son of a gun. Yeah, how's that for independence?
Yeah,
you got to be a jerk to believe that one. Independence. It's a takeover. It's a takeover. There's two mafias. The military-industrial complex and the money mafia, the money changers industrial complex. And they're in control. What are they doing by spouting out this stuff? Oh, yeah, we're going to keep money cheap. That's in response to the Federal Reserve move that began on May 22nd when they said that they were going to have to tighten up money. And they began to tighten it up with the fear of tightening it up, not even tightening it up, and the markets went into cardiac arrest. So now what they're saying is, don't worry, we're going to keep juicing the Ponzi scheme. No need to pull out now. We still got a couple of more months to play it out, or several more. How many more, I don't know. But as long as they keep pulling this game off, the Ponzi scheme keeps going.
Love this Goldman Sachs connection here, Gerald. London stocks going up today. Investors basking in the afterglow of the Bank of England news. And our good buddies at Goldman Sachs say that's great. They're targeting over 7,000 for the London Stock Exchange.
Yeah, what the market go up like 3% or something. Yeah. On what? On what? On the good news that money's going to be cheap and you just lost your purchasing power of your pounds sterling. Great. It's going to cost you people out there more money to buy everything because you don't make a damn thing.
Couple of other great news headlines from Europe talking about central banks. Greece's finance minister saying this week he's optimistic the talks with the Troika will be wrapped up in time for next week's meeting of the Eurozone finance ministers.
Again, these are sociopaths. That's all they are. They're frontmen. They're wise guys to the money changers. As I said, there are two mafias. The politicians are the wise guys to the mafias. And the police and the military, they're the soldiers, the enforcers for the crime bosses. This guy's nothing more than a little flunky shooting his mouth off like so many of them have before. Like the guy over there, or Rajoy over in Spain, Cleo over in Portugal, Hollande, Cameron, all of them. All they are nothing more than mouthpieces.
Yeah.
How could anybody believe this little clown in Greeks? All they've done is sell out the country. Privatization, yeah. That's another word for taking valuable public assets and selling them to your buddies at a bargain basement price and getting a cut for selling them, for doing the deal. Who could believe this guy? Oh, yeah. Happy days are here again. What are they looking at? Over 30% unemployment in Greece and 60% youth unemployment.
You mentioned Spain earlier. We've got news from Spain. Spain's banks do not need further European aid. That's according to the European Commission and the European Central Bank. So of course, that they need it desperately.
Of course.
Yeah.
Or the other thing is maybe they came out with a new plan to steal more money from the people that don't have any left.
Yeah, that's a theory, I guess.
Yeah, I mean that's how the whole austerity measure thing began. Did you see the tapes that were released from the money junkies and the white shoe boys in Anglo-Irish?
I did not see that, but fill us in.
Oh God, you have to look at that. How they were laughing and how they were playing the Irish government. First they were going to ask for $7 billion, knowing that it would be a lot more. Oh, and you should hear the language. Oh, you Irishmen would be proud of how you got shafted by the bank. And what was this for? Oh, European and other banks made bad bets, and the people have to pay off the bad bets that the banks made. Oh, no, everybody should go look up Anglo-Irish and put in the word tapes and read the atrocities that were being committed. It's live and in person for anybody that wants to take the time to hear it.
Gerald Celente from TrendsResearchInstitute with us here on This Week in Money. Here's a name you don't normally hear when you're talking about bailouts. The International Monetary Fund and Pakistan agreeing to a $5 billion rescue package for Pakistan.
How'd they pull that one off?
I have no idea.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, Pakistan's going to find peace and prosperity. It's just around the corner.
Perfect.
And listen, Phil, there's a bridge over here in Brooklyn that I could sell you. I mean, how could they pull this stuff off? Pakistan is in the middle of a civil war. It's going to be erupting even more as it winds down in Afghanistan and bloodshed starts pulling over more and more and spilling over into Afghanistan. The new president with the new president just got elected. The country is already in turmoil, and they got $5 billion. I mean, you know who's going to pay for it. We the people, one way or another, because we always end up paying.
Gerald Celente with us on This Week in Money, and let's turn to gold, which is kind of reflecting what's going on lately, falling 3% today after those job numbers came out. Is this a real number, or is this all just kind of stagecraft here?
Well, I began buying gold in 1978. I also bought it at the highest point in the trading day on January 20th, 1980, when it crashed. I bought it at $8.75 an ounce and watched it, tank. It's a very different emotion then and now. Back then, Phil, it was only the United States, people in Japan, a few people in Europe playing the markets, very thinly traded. Now it's a different world. There was no Russia back then. It was the Soviet Union. Everything east of Berlin was locked behind the Iron Curtain. There was no China. We didn't know anything about China. People knew about China was Mao, and I think he was dead by then. And then, of course, India. India was a place where the gurus went, But they weren't doing business. What I'm saying, this is a global economy. And when you're looking at physical demand for precious metals, the premium keeps going up on it, and demand has not dried up. So there are two markets. There's the paper markets and the real markets. Yes, gold could continue to stay down for who knows how long, maybe a year, maybe 2 years. It could be, the dollar is looking stronger because all the other currencies are weaker, not because the U.S. is stronger. Again, when you look at the balance of trade, hey, how about talking about that? They don't talk about that today, did they? They didn't talk about the balance of trade deficit in the U.S., how it keeps growing. But no, we'll talk about the job numbers that are creating crappy jobs.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is I'm in gold for the long term. I don't give financial advice. That's just me speaking. And I believe that there's going to be more global turmoil. There's going to be more of a financial crisis in Europe. And the financial crisis has not ended in the United States. The May 20th speech by Ben Bernanke on tapering off on the economy was putting up a trial balloon to see what would happen. They cannot taper off. If they do, the economy goes into free fall. So I'm into gold for the long term.
It seems that Bernanke is floating a lot of trial balloons.
Oh, Bernanke's a trial balloon. Go back and look at the Fed minutes. They come out every 5 years. Now that's something. You want to talk about democracy in the USSA? Yeah. Why can't we see them when they just came out? No, we got to wait 5 years so everybody forgets what they said. Go back to the Fed minutes 5 years ago when the panic of '08 began. Every one of them got it wrong. Every one of them called it wrong. There was not going to be any mortgage crisis. There wasn't going to be a recession. Everything is a trial balloon because that's all it is. It's a fool's paradise.
Now, as you mentioned, a lot of trial balloons, but nothing really substantive. So in the absence of any definitive Fed policy, what the heck is going on with gold? Why is gold reacting the way it is?
They're dumping gold on their paper, shorting it. And it's very easy to manipulate the markets on the paper end. And again, it looks inflation's not going up. The debasement of the currencies are not happening in the United States as rapidly as they are with the rupee and the real and other currencies, because right now the U.S. is looked upon as the only solid currency because the other ones are so weak. So again, it's a temporary, but it's a debasement of all the currencies. And again, and you've known me for a number of years, I've said this all along, I wasn't in the camp of hyperinflation. I was always saying that they're going to debase the currencies, so it's going to cost you more to buy the product, which is a different type of inflation than a supply and demand inflation. And so, for example, if you live in Zimbabwe and you need to buy a pound of coffee, the price of coffee hasn't gone up, the value of the dollar has gone down. And that's what we're going to see. But in the United States, it's on stall, because the other currencies are all weakening, and it makes it look like the United States currency is strong, but it's not. It's only strong in comparison to the other weak ones. So if you have you have a cancer patient that's ready to die and one that has 7 months more to live, that's what you're looking at.
Gerald Celente with us on This Week in Money. We've been watching the gold miners just keep going down as the price of gold keeps going down. They're calling for a bottom of around 1,100. Nobody knows where the bottom is with a lot of these miners. And that, of course, up here in Canada. That's big news for us.
Well, it should be. And again, what they're saying, 1,100, 1,200 is the number that I keep hearing, is how much it costs to extract out of the ground. So if it costs that, I can't see it going lower than that. Could it go lower? Of course it could, but rationally it doesn't make any sense to. But again, I look at this as, nothing goes straight up or straight down. But let's not forget, since the gold bull run began, gold has gained, 400%? And what has it lost? 23, 25%?
Yeah, I think about that, yeah.
Oh, in the stock market? Now it's over 15,000 in the U.S., the Dow. What was the high? 14,000 in 2007. Accounting for inflation, the stock market should be 15,734. So big deal. It's not even back where it was back then. And look at the NASDAQ. It was 5,000. Back in 2000 when it crashed, and that was the hot market of the day. You remember? It was all those wonderful
.com companies.
.com.
Yeah.
Now what is it? 34.79. So I mean, yeah. So to me, gold is still golden.
Gerald Celente is publisher of the TrendsJournal, and he's founder director of the Trends Research Institute. Summer edition of TrendsJournal is out soon. Put your money where your mind is and subscribe. Gerald, tell us how we can get involved and subscribe to your newsletter.
TrendsJournal.com, Phil. TrendsJournal.com, and we have a discount request page there for everyone that's having a difficult time. So it's not no personal information. Just tell us what we can do to help you, and we'll make sure that you get the Trends Journal so you could read history before it happens.
If you want to follow Gerald Celente on Twitter, that's easy. Just type in @Gerald Celente and the Gerald Celente channel over on YouTube. Always worth watching. And Gerald, I hope you have a great weekend. Thank you for talking to us today.
Hey, thanks for having me back, Phil.
This week.